Hello everyone, this is Meenakshi Dilip Birari, working as a assistant professor in chemistry at Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj, Nasik. In previous lectures, we have studied about composition, preparation, and advantages of farmyard manure and biogas plant. Now, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss about composition, preparation, and advantages of vermicompost and green manuring. We know that manure is any substance produced by animal or plants that is used as a fertilizer, and the application of manure supplies essential ions to the soil. Vermicompost or earthworm compost is the best manure because earthworm loses the soil and improves the texture, thus increasing the quality and quantity of crops. Green manuring increases the nutrient content in the soil and also improves the fertility of the soil. Green manuring is mainly used for paddy, irrigated wheat and sugarcane crops. Green manuring is of different types depending on the soil and also depending on the climatic conditions. So we will see in detail about vermicompost and green manuring. First of all, preparation, composition and advantages of vermicompost. What is vermicomposting? Vermicomposting is a method of making compost with the use of earthworms which generally live in the soil, eat biomass and excrete it in digested form. This compost is generally called vermicompost. So, making of compost with the use of earthworms called as vermicomposting. Vermiculture. So vermiculture means scientific method of breeding and raising earthworms in controlled condition. So that is called as a vermiculture. So vermicomposting, that is a method of making compost by use of earthworms, whereas the vermiculture, that means the scientific method of breeding and raising earthworms in controlled conditions. Earthworm compost or vermicompost is best manure because earthworm loses the soil, improves the texture and also increases the quality and quantity of crops. Vermicompost or vermiculture means the scientific growing of earthworms, and vermicompost can be done by either of the following methods. One is indoor or small scale culturing and second one outdoor or large scale culturing technique. So we have to study both methods in detail. We know that vermicompost or earthworm compost is the best manure because earthworm loses the soil and improves the texture, thus increasing the quality and quantity of crops. So what is the nutrient content in the vermicompost? Vermicompost contains number of nutrients like organic carbon 9.15 to 17.98%, total nitrogen, that is 1.5 to 2.10%, total phosphorus 1.0 to 1.50%, total potassium 0.60%, calcium and magnesium about 22 to 70, available sulfur, that is about 128 to 548 ppm, and copper, that is also about 100 ppm. So these are the number of nutrients that are present in vermicompost. So vermicompost or earthworm compost is the best manure. It increases the nutrient content in the soil and also increases the texture of the soil. For the preparation of vermicompost, it requires the number of raw materials and starter. So basic raw material, that may be any organic material generated in the form like busa, leaf fall, etc. But horse dung, due to the risk of tetanus virus lethal to the human beings, is not advisable to be used as a feeding material for earthworms. Also paddy husk, marigold, and pine needles have also not advised to be used as a feeding material for earthworms. So we have to take some precautions while preparing vermicompost. Horse dung and also the paddy husk, marigold, and pine needles have also not advised to be used as a feeding material for earthworms. Any organic material generated in the form like bhusa, leaf fall, etc. can be used for the preparation of vermicompost. Then the starter, cow dung, biogas slurry, or urine of cattle. These are used as a starter for vermicompost preparation. Then soil animal, mainly earthworm having the species Essentia foetida can be used, and the roof or the vermicide, these are required for vermicompost preparation. So in this figure we can observe that the number of raw materials are present in the layer. So what are the materials for preparation of vermicompost? That may be biodegradable waste like crop residues, brown leaves, kitchen scraps, straw, grass clippings, brown leaves, green leaves, and wood chips. Like that, the number of layers are present. So it includes the biodegradable waste, crop residues, weed biomass, vegetable waste, leaf litter, hotel refuse, waste from agro industries, biodegradable portion of urban and rural waste, also FYM, that is farmyard manure. So like that, all that materials are required for the preparation of vermicompost. So these are nothing but the raw materials required for vermicompost, or the materials which are required for this preparation. So what is the mechanism of vermicompost? So materials consumed by worms undergo physical breakdown in the gizzard, resulting in particles which are less than 2 micron, given thereby an enhanced surface area for microbial processing. This finally ground material is exposed to various enzymes such as protease, lipase, amylase, cellulase, and chitinase secreted into lumen by the gut wall and associated microbes. We know that in vermicompost or vermiculture there is scientific growth of earthworms. So in that, earthworms uses the biomass, they eat biomass, and that biomass or the materials consumed by worms undergo physical breakdown in the gizzard. Then it results in the particles having less than 2 micron, that will be given thereby an enhanced surface area for microbial processing. This finally ground material is exposed to various enzymes, that will be protease, lipase, amylase, cellulase, etc. into the lumen by the gut wall and also associated microbes. So the ejected material by the earthworms, which are pulverized in nature, that will increase the fertility of the soil and also improves the texture of the soil. So this one is the actual mechanism of vermicomposting, which occurs in the presence of earthworms. So there is the scientific growing of earthworms to prepare vermicompost or vermiculture. So what are the favorable conditions of earthworms in the composting material? In composting material, the pH should be in the range between 6.5 to 7.5, moisture that may be 60 to 70% or below, and above the range mortality of worms taking place. Aeration, 50% aeration from the total pore space, and the temperature, it should be in the range between 18 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. So these are the favorable conditions of earthworms in the composting material. Now what is the actual procedure for the preparation of vermicompost or vermiculture? So vermicompost or earthworm compost, it is mostly prepared in either pit or in heap method. The dimension either heap or pit are 10 into 4 into 2 feet. The length and width can be increased or decreased depending on the availability of material, but not the depth, because the earthworm's activity is confined to 2 feet depth only. First of all, select a site which is not in under any economic use and is no water. The site should be near to water source. There should not water stagnation. The site should be near to water source. First layer, that is bedding material of first thick and soft leaves. Second layer, that will be thick in nature, which are made up of organic residue layer, finely chopped material. And the third layer, that may be dung plus water equal mixture of 2-inch layer. So that may be the 3 layers in the vermicompost preparation. So vermicomposting that mostly prepared in either pit or in heap method. And what should be the dimension? Dimension should be 10 into 4 into 2 feet. The length and width can be increased or decreased depending on the availability of material, but not depth, because the earthworm activity is confined to 2 feet depth only. In vermicomposting, number of precautions should be taken. So what are that? First thing, do not cover vermicompost beds or heaps with plastic sheet, because it may trap heat and gases. Then, do not overload the vermicompost heap to avoid high temperature that adversely affect their population. Also, dry kill the worm and waterlogging drive them away. Watering should be done daily in summer and every third day in rainy and in winter season. Addition, the higher quantities of acid-rich substances such as tomatoes and citrus waste should be avoided in vermicomposting. Also, make a drainage channel around the heap to avoid stagnation of water, particularly in high rainfall areas in rainy season. And organic material use should be free from non-degradable materials like plastics, stone, also bulbs. I have already explained what are the favorable conditions of earthworms in composting material. So optimum moisture, pH, temperature, that are essential for vermicompost preparation. So that in vermicompost preparation, do not cover vermicompost beds with plastic sheets. Do not overload the vermicompost heap to avoid the temperature. Dry kill the worm and waterlogging drive them away. Watering should be done daily in summer and every third day in rainy and winter season. Also, addition reach the higher quantities of acid-rich substances such as tomatoes and citrus waste should be avoided. Make a drainage channel to remove the extra water, particularly in high rainfall areas and also in rainy season. And the organic material used should be free from non-degradable materials like plastic, stone, bulbs, etc. So these are the different precautions required in vermicompost preparation. So what are the commonly used earthworm species for the preparation of vermicompost? So these are Eudrilla eugenia, Essentia foetida, Perionyx excavatus, Indian blue, tiger worm, African night crawler. So Essentia foetida, Essentia hortensis, Perionyx excavatus, Eudrillus eugenie, like that. These are the different species which are commonly used for preparation of vermicompost. Vermicompost can be done by either of the different methods. One is indoor or small scale culturing, and second one is outdoor culturing technique. So first of all we will see indoor or small scale culturing for the preparation of vermicompost. In this method, the culture containers should be made from plastic, wood, tin, etc. so that they can be transported from one place to another. They should be non-porous so that they are able to retain moisture. The boxes should be of 50 into 35 into 15 to 20 centimeter with few holes at the bottom, approximately 500 mm in diameter at the bottom with few holes. Bottom of the box is covered with plastic window screen which is covered with burlap or jute cloth to prevent the sticking of culture medium and escape of earthworm through the holes. It permits the drainage of excess water. The culture medium is shown as follows. Generally, the plastic tubes are used for vermiculture because they are more durable and can be easily packed over each other in vertical rows. Top of the box is covered with burlap or jute cloth frame before inoculation of medium and earthworms. So the boxes that should be of 50 centimeter into 35 into 15 to 20 centimeter with a few holes of 500 mm in diameter at the bottom. Bottom of the box is covered with plastic window screen which is covered with burlap or jute cloth to prevent the sticking of culture medium and escape of earthworms through the holes. It also permits the drainage of excess water. So it is also the box which are used for the preparation of vermicompost. That is the first one, lid, working tray, processing tray. These are first, second, third. Then collection tray, holding tray, and that will be the base. So generally plastic tubes are also used for vermiculture because they are more durable and can be easily packed over each other in vertical rows. Top of the box is covered with jute cloth frame before inoculation of the medium and also the earthworms. A mixture of 1/3 soil and 2/3 organic matter is used for culture purpose. A layer of 2 to 4 centimeter thick sand is spread in the plastic boxes. This layer is covered with 2 to 4 centimeter thick soil layer. Organic matter is placed on one side of the container and water is sprinkled on the cultural medium so as to make it 25 to 30% moist. For indoor process, the temperature of the building is maintained between 10 to 20 degrees Celsius and water should be sprinkled regularly in limited quantity. Sufficient amount of organic material, it should be added to culture medium to avoid sogging, and low wattage of light should be applied to avoid crawling out of earthworm boxes. So these are the earthworm boxes having vermiculture in the layer. A mixture of 1/3 soil and 2/3 organic matter is used for culture purpose. A layer of 2 to 4 centimeter thick sand is spread in plastic boxes and this layer is covered with 2 to 4 centimeter thick soil layer. Organic matter is placed on one side of the container and water is sprinkled on the cultural medium so as to make it 25 to 30% moist. The culture containers should be made of either plastic or wood or tin so that they can be transported from one place to another. They should be non-porous so as they are able to retain moisture, and the boxes should be of 50 centimeter, 35 centimeter or into 15 to 20 centimeter with a few holes of 500 mm in diameter at the bottom. So these are the different boxes which are made up of plastic or wood or tin used for vermicomposting. Now the second one, that is outdoor or large scale culturing technique. For outdoor cultures at low temperature places, boxes must be covered with suitable insulation material. For example, wheat straw, dry hay or weeds, etc. to maintain the required temperature. So large vermiculture beds are made on the wasteland. Bottom is covered with 2 to 4 centimeter thick sand layer, and after that mixture of 1/3 soil and 2/3 organic matter in the form of conical heap to avoid excess of water during rain. Low wattage of light should be applied to avoid the crawling out of earthworm boxes. So large vermiculture beds are made on the wasteland and the bottom is covered with 2 to 4 centimeter thick sand layer. For outdoor cultures at low temperature places, boxes must be covered with suitable insulation material, for example wheat straw, dry hay or weeds, etc. to maintain the required temperature. Now this one is the vermicomposting cycle for outdoor culturing technique. So in that, large vermiculture beds are made on the wasteland with a bottom layer of 10 centimeter high gravel over which plastic window is placed with its edges raised up to 20 mm height. So such a beds contains decomposed organic waste and the earthworms. Then bottom is covered with 2 to 4 centimeter thick sand layer which is covered with a mixture of 1/3 soil and 2/3 organic matter in the form of conical heap. So dumped conical heap to avoid the accumulation of excess water during the rains. So bottom is covered with 2 to 4 centimeter thick sand layer which is covered with a mixture of 1/3 soil and 2/3 organic matter in the form of conical heap. Then the bottom layers of gravel and sand also helps to maintain the water content in the culture. It is dry in shades and then sieved vermicompost with 3 mm mesh reintroduced into the boxes, and after this process there is the for preparation of vermicomposting. It is ready for packaging. So like that is nothing but vermicomposting cycle. Vermicompost deals with application of earthworm for production of rich biofertilizer which break down organics into plant available nutrients. It also increases the biotic component of soil processes and it keeps the soil aerated. So the window screen prevents the escape of worms in the vermicomposting in outdoor culturing technique. We know that the crops need nitrogen very much. Atmosphere contains only 78% of nitrogen. However, certain soil organisms can convert and fix the atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia and make it available. The vermicompost produced by earthworm make the soil rich in nitrogen content and also it increases the crop yield. So these are the two methods. By using these two methods we can prepare vermicompost. One is indoor culturing technique and another one outdoor culturing technique. Earthworm compost or vermicompost is the best manure because earthworm loses the soil and improves the texture and also increases the quality and quantity of crops. So here vermiculture means the scientific growing of earthworms that can be used for the preparation of vermicompost by using indoor or small scale culturing and outdoor culturing technique. So after the preparation of vermicompost, we get pulverized material which is rich in nutrient content. So that is the actual vermicompost prepared. It increases the biotic component of soil processes. It keeps the soil aerated, which is the rich biofertilizer which break down organics into plant available nutrients. So what should be the application rate of vermicompost? It can be applied in any crop at any stage, but it would be more beneficial if mixed in soil after broadcasting. The rate of application is as field crops 5 to 6, vegetable crops 10 to 12, flower plants about 100 to 200, and fruit trees that will be about 5 to 10 kg per tree. So vermicomposting can be applied in any crop at any stage, but it would be more beneficial if it is mixed in soil after broadcasting. Now, what are the benefits of vermicompost? Vermicompost is a nutrient rich compost which helps better plant growth and crop yield. It improves the physical structure of soil. It enriches soil with microorganisms. It attracts deep burrowing earthworms already present in the soil, which indirectly improves the fertility of soil. Also, it increases the water holding capacity of soil. It enhances germination, plant growth, and crop yield. It improves root growth of plants. Also improves soil with plant hormones such as auxins and gibberellic acid. It is also helpful in elimination of bio waste. So these are the different things related to vermicompost. Vermicompost is a nutrient rich compost. It increases the texture of soil and also increases the quality and quantity of crops. It improves the fertility of soil. Now we have to study the next manure, that is green manuring. Green manuring is also important to increase the fertility of soil and also increases the crop yield and quantity. What is green manuring? Green manuring is a part of organic farming which can be defined as the practice of enriching the soil fertility by plowing under or soil incorporation of any green manure crops while they are green or soon after they start flowering. Green manuring is considered to be a good management practice in all agricultural production systems because of its increasing sustainability of cropping system through reducing soil erosion. The crops that are grown for green manure are called green manure crops. Green manuring is mainly used for paddy, irrigated, wheat and sugarcane crops. In this system, green manure crops are grown and buried in the same field which is to be green. Manured. So green manuring is a part of organic farming which can be defined as the practice of enriching the soil fertility by plowing under or soil incorporation of any green manure crops while they are green or soon after they start flowering. Green manuring is of different types depending on the soil and also depending on the climatic conditions. It is of two types, that is green manuring in situ. So in this system, Green manure crops are grown and buried in the same field which is to be green manured either as a pure crop or as intercrop with the main crop. Sanhemp, dhencha, these are the examples or the common crops used for green manuring. Second one, green leafy manuring. This refers to turning into soil green leaves and tender green twigs collected from shrubs and trees grown on burns, waterlands and nearby forest areas. So these are the two important types of green manuring. One is green manuring in situ and another green leafy manuring. So methods of green manuring, one is in situ green manuring and second one ex situ green manuring. In situ green manuring, in this system, the short duration suitable crops are grown in a field prior to crop cultivation and then cut and buried in the same site when approximately 50% of all plants are flowering. So in this system, green manure crops are grown and buried in the same field. Second one, ex situ green manuring. Green leaves and tender plant part of the plants are collected from shrubs and trees growing on the burns, degraded lands or nearby forest and they are incorporated or mixed into the soil 15 to 30 days before sowing of the crops depending on the tenderness of the foliage or plant part. So that is the second type, ex situ green manuring. So this refers to turning into soil green leaves and tender green twigs collected from shrubs and trees grown on burns, waterlands and nearby forest areas. So these are the green manure crops. In that, Sanhemp, that is Crotalaria luncea, dhencha, which is called Sesbania aculecta, cowpea, cluster bean, Pilipesara and Gor. So these are the common crops which are used for green manuring. Now what are the characteristics of green manuring? The characteristic of good green manuring, it should have such a type of the characteristic. First, it should yield large quantity of green material within a short period. It should suppress weeds, should be succulent and have more leafy growth. It should preferably be legume which fixes atmospheric nitrogen. It should have deep fibrous root system so as to absorb nutrients from lower zones and it should contain large quantity of non-fibrous tissues of rapid decomposability containing some percentage of moisture and nitrogen. It should have little water requirements for its own growth. Land should be capable of making a good stand on poor and exhausted soils. So these are the characteristics of green manuring. It should suppress weeds. It should yield large quantity of green material in short period. It should have deep fibrous root system. It should contain large quantity of non-fibrous tissues and also have little water requirement for its own growth. So these are the few images related to green manuring. It is mainly used for paddy, irrigated wheat and sugarcane crops. It is of different types depending on the soil and climatic conditions. In this system, crops are grown and buried in the same field. Now what are the advantages of green manuring? It stimulates the activity of soil microorganisms. It adds organic matter to the soil and also improves the structure of soil. It improves the fertility of soil. It increases the nutrient content in the soil. It facilitates the penetration of rainwater, thus decreasing runoff and soil erosion. It holds nutrients that would be lost by leaching. It facilitates the penetration of rainwater. The green manure crops nutrient taken by the crops from deep layers and returns to the upper topsoil. When leguminous plants like sanhep and dhenja are used as green manure crops, they add nitrogen to soil for the succeeding crops. So, leguminous plants used as a green manure add nitrogen to the soil. Also, it increases the availability of certain plant nutrients like phosphorus, calcium, potassium, magnesium, iron, etc. So, green manuring, it is helpful to stimulate the activity of soil microorganisms. It improves the fertility of soil. It adds the organic matter to the soil, improves the structure of soil. It adds the nitrogen and also the different plant nutrients like phosphorus, calcium, potassium, magnesium and iron. So these are the advantages of green manuring. Benefits of green manuring, we can summarize. These are: green manures and add organic matter to the soil and stimulates the activity of soil microorganisms. It improves the structure of soil, thereby improving WHC, decreasing runoff and also erosion of the soil. Green manure take nutrient from lower layers of the soil and adds to the upper layer of soil. It also increases the availability of certain plant nutrients like NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. So these are the benefits of green manuring. Green manuring also have some disadvantages. So these are: in case of deficient or scarce rainfall, proper decomposition and satisfactory germination of succeeding crop does not take place. Also, it is suitable only for those regions with good irrigation facility. Such a type of the manure is more expensive than commercial fertilizer and there is possibility of increase of diseases, insects and nematodes. So these are the disadvantages of green manuring. In case of deficient or scarce rainfall, proper decomposition and satisfactory germination of succeeding crop does not take place. Also, it is more expensive as compared to other commercial fertilizers. It is only suitable for those regions with good irrigation facilities. So, these are the disadvantages of green manuring. So, green manuring technology is gaining importance due to increasing emphasis on the soil health, minimize environmental pollution and also cut down the use of chemical in agriculture. Application of green manure crops supplements the chemical fertilizers and restores soil fertility. Therefore, it is an eco-friendly, low-cost technology to conserve the natural resources besides maintaining environmental quality in a sustainable manner. By raising or incorporation of green and green leaf manures, the soil fertility can be improved. Low cost practice and an alternate way to improve the soil fertility status. One of the low cost practice, that is the green manuring, which is important to improve the nutrient status of the soil and increases the fertility of the soil. So in today's lecture we have studied the two important manures. One is vermicomposting and second one green manuring. So in previous lectures we have studied farmyard manure, biogas plant and in today's lecture vermicompost and green manuring. So what are the differences between manures and fertilizers. We know that fertilizers and manures supply plant food and also help to increase the yield of different crops through improvement of soil fertility. So what are the differences between the fertilizers and manures? So distinguishing points related to fertilizers and manures. Fertilizer, it may be an artificial or natural substance, whereas manure, it is a natural substance. Fertilizer, these are the chemicals that are added to the soil to increase its fertility and productivity. Whereas manures are obtained from dead and decaying plants and animals. Fertilizers are prepared in factories, whereas manures are prepared in fields. We already studied FYM, farmyard manure, biogas plant, also vermicompost, green manure, night soil, etc. Then fertilizers does not provide humus to the soil, whereas manures provides humus to the soil. Fertilizers are rich in plant nutrients as compared to manures, whereas manures, these are less rich in plant nutrients. Fertilizers are absorbed by plants quickly, but manures are absorbed by plants slowly as compared to fertilizers. Fertilizers are costly and manures are comparatively cheaper and cost effective. Fertilizers harms the organisms present in the soil and also causes health issues in people consuming the crop, whereas manures causes no harm to the organisms and also it improves the soil quality. So these are few distinguishing points related to fertilizers and manures. In today's lecture, we have studied vermicompost and green manuring and also the distinguishing points related to fertilizers and manures. In next lecture, we will discuss about biofertilizers and also the advantages of biofertilizers. Thank you.